Hey there, and welcome back to the episode number 11 of the Elevate podcast. On today's episode, we're going to get very real about the slow season of wedding professionals that no one likes to talk about, but I truly feel that everyone should hear and listen to. So if you are a wedding professional, this episode is for you. And it's definitely one that you are going to want to stick with until the end. Hey everyone, welcome to the Elevate podcast with me, your host, Kyle Goldie. I'm a husband, traveler, photographer, and successful small business owner. And each week I'll be sharing authentic, actionable advice or incredible, inspirational interviews to help improve the way you run your life. So join us, take notes, and most importantly, take action. Let's get straight into it. If you've been following me around Instagram or Facebook, you might have seen my brand, Luma Weddings. Among other things, I am a wedding photographer based in Seattle, Washington, and I've been a full-time photographer for 10 years after getting my Bachelor's of Business Management back in 2007. I've never looked back. I love being a photographer with a true passion. Now, that said, being a photographer is not easy. It's far from it. And as a photographer in general, it's so easy to get into these days with it being so affordable for incredible equipment and gorgeous websites. And it's really easy to look like you've been a true pro for decades. It's easy to get that perception behind your brand when it's done right. I even coach professionals on how to get that perception accomplished within the very first month of them getting into the world of weddings. After all, when you are handling your business well, in any business, perception is everything, and everything starts from there. So on that note, it's important to make one thing clear. I am not recommending to anyone to quote-unquote fake it until you make it. I have seen that countless times across multiple industries that I have personally worked in, and that fake it persona works only maybe 1% of the time. The other 99% of the time, you are losing out because you are not asking for help, you're not getting coaches and mentors to help you, and you are feeling totally alone as you are building your struggling business. Faking it until you make it rarely ever works, and I do not recommend that you go that route. You will only alienate yourself. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the wedding industry as a whole and the real aspects to peak season versus slow season, because that is a real thing. And anyone that is saying that they don't have a slow season is either 1, lying to you, 2, getting incredibly burned out on living or working in a market that has weddings going year-round, or 3, building out a team of associates who work under their brand and they're totally okay with the amount of liability looming over their heads at all times. And personally, to speak of associates, I would much rather have associates in a portrait photography business rather than a wedding photography business, but let's leave that for a separate podcast episode. And here in the Pacific Northwest, where I call home, peak season is a very short time duration. It's typically late May or early June through early October, because those are the months where we have less rain and it's a little bit warmer. But really, that only gives us about 4 months to book as many weddings as we possibly can. And 4 months of working tirelessly, non-stop, and sacrificing our health at times to get it all done to the best of our ability. Personally speaking, I photograph between 40 to 50 weddings a year, and that's all on average, by the way. And about 75% of those are crammed into 4 months. So those 4 months are very tiring. The rest are sporadically done through late fall, winter, and early spring. And those cold months in the Pacific Northwest is typically where I have some destination weddings in warmer locations, as is super common for most people in the wedding industry who work destination weddings. So, on this episode, I want to chat with you about the real side of the industry that hardly anyone talks about, which is the slow season. The slow season creeps up on many wedding professionals, but it's the same every single year. So, we must plan accordingly. Learn how to save more of that income that you are making during that peak season. Put it aside. Plan for a slow month or two in between peak season and engagement season. For the Pacific Northwest, engagement season, also known as booking season, typically starts around the middle of October. And yes, there are brides who book in summer and want to plan 12 months ahead of time, but the majority of couples plan their wedding day when things slow down in early and mid-fall. There are no more busy summer activities, not as many late nights out on the town with friends, no more summer vacations, and it's getting into quote-unquote cuddle season where you spend more time with friends and family. So there's simply more time to plan a wedding and more engagements themselves happening during this time. In my experience and in most years, there is a bit of a gap between that peak season cash influx and the booking season. Sometimes this can be 1 to 2 months long, but it varies every single year. Sure, leads can come in during this time organically through social media, SEO efforts, and other organic ways like referrals. But if you are wanting to stay ahead of the curve with this slow season and that quote-unquote in-between months, I recommend stepping up with your paid advertisements. Now, your paid advertisements that you choose will be totally dependent on your location, your ideal client demographic, your rates, and a few other variables. So some paid storefront listings can notoriously cater to couples a bit lower budget. So if your rates are on the lower end of the spectrum, those storefronts might work wonders for you. But if you are on the higher end of the spectrum, those storefronts could be the best place to burn your money and not see anything come out of them. And right there in the middle, if you are in the middle of that rate spectrum, you might have some success, you might not. It might be feeling like you're burning your money a little bit. So just look at your return on investment and decide if you want to keep that listing moving forward. So do a little bit of market research, figure out for your market where you currently are, and then make a decision based on that. And that by itself is a really big reason why I see complaints of places like Wedding Wire or Style Me Pretty or The Knot, Thumbtack, and other places where wedding professionals aren't getting results from. This is a topic for another podcast episode, which I'll be more than happy to cover, but my feelings about this are summarized simply by saying you will get out of the storefronts what you put into them. When you use paid storefront listings, you are simply using them as a tool and an entry point to your client funnel. If you are paying into those listing services to get attention into a semi-qualified audience, you're doing it correctly. Now you have to wait until your website does the rest for you. And I say that it's only semi-qualified because the only thing that you know about the person viewing the listing is that they're engaged. You know absolutely nothing else about them at this point. They could have a super low budget, have a totally different personality than what fits with your ideal client avatar, and otherwise, it just might not be a good fit with this particular person. But that's what your website is there for, and that's why you go through all that pre-qualification with your website and with your email communication itself. What happens after the person who views your paid storefront listing is your responsibility 100%. And by this, I mean it's up to the quality of your website, branding, your perception, and the client funnel that you have actually wrapped up in your design of the website itself. It's up to your website to convert that website visitor into a real lead. And then it's up to your email communication to close that lead into a sale. So paid advertisements can totally help, and they can help you get through that in-between month period, that time between peak season and slow season. Another thing that you should definitely look into during those in-between times are Facebook ads and Google ads. And at the time of this episode, I am not an expert in either, but it's definitely a discussion to have, and you should definitely bring it up with someone who does specialize in these areas. And now, let's have another honest chat about what slow season can look like for those who are not interested in running additional ads or packing in their entire calendar year with purely weddings. And going further into your career as a wedding professional, it's a matter of learning the process of peak season cash influxes versus slow months and being ready for them financially. Because to be real, it's a roller coaster of emotions and bank account balances. It's just a name of the game in the wedding industry, the truth that no one likes to speak about in the industry, and why I am choosing to share the straight truth here on my podcast. Facebook ads, in my opinion, will round you out. Otherwise, keep actively doing work in your business every single day. Keep posting to Instagram, keep posting to Facebook, keep blogging, keep building out your local relationships with wedding vendors, building out your SEO, and just provide value to your audience. Value is key. And another super honest and transparent thing that many wedding pros do carry through the slow season are side hustles. A lot of them do not like mentioning that they have side hustles, but it's just the straight, God-honest truth. They have Etsy stores, they have affiliate marketing businesses, they have influencer partnerships, they have coffee shops and boutiques, they have day trading, they have rental properties, they have workshops, they have print sales, they have Santa sessions, they have family portrait sessions. They have X, Y, and Z. In short, yes, you can absolutely be busy year-round if you want to be. And yes, if you are great at saving up your money during those peak season months, you can stretch that through your slow months. And yes, that will carry you through into your booking season. But a lot of people in the wedding industry do not share that they have side hustles because they want to have that perception that they are 100% full-time dedicated to their craft as a wedding professional. Me personally, I have multiple streams of income. I think that you should not be embarrassed about having multiple streams of income. You and I, with us all listening into this podcast episode, we are collective entrepreneurs. We are passionate people about what we are. We are not just photographers, florists, planners, etc. We are entrepreneurs. So having side hustles should not be looked down on. In short, yes, you can absolutely be busy year-round if you want to be. The most successful photographers that I know of who are working year-round work in one or two different markets with two different peak seasons, or they are filling outside weddings with associates. Personally speaking, neither of those options interest me, but they might interest you. Outside of those options, you can do what I do. You can have your peak season and off season filled as much as you physically can handle, which is typically between 30 to 40 weddings per year for most people. And then you can add a side hustle for an additional stream of revenue. Personally speaking, I am multi-passionate. You know that about me. And from what I have learned over the years is this one thing. I love helping others succeed. And when I see their successes, I feel successful. And that is why I am here on this podcast today, not holding anything back, sharing the real truth with you, and truly hoping that you take action on what you learn here on the Elevate podcast. And that's it for me today. But before I go, I just really wanted to quickly say that I sincerely appreciate you being here with me. And if you liked the episode, subscribe, rate, and review. Please take the time to do that. It really helps me build up this podcast. And if you absolutely loved it, take a screenshot of the episode on your phone, post it to your Insta stories, and tag me so that I can repost it to my own. Just tag me at Kyle Goldie. Thank you again. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. This episode of the Elevate podcast with me, Kyle Goldie, has ended, but be sure to subscribe for more actionable tips, tricks, and strategies to help you crush your goals and elevate your life. Don't forget to rate and review so that I can continue to help bring you the absolute best content and help you set yourself up to win. I'm going to see you on the next episode of the Elevate podcast.